When he was come down from the mountain, great multitudes followed him. A preacher or pastor ought never to decline from the perfection of his state, and yet he must often stoop, by way of condescension, to the weak and feeble. He must go to them if they cannot come to him, and he must descend to their wants, their troubles, and their infirmities. It is the means to gain them to God, to engage them to follow him, and to draw them after him by the sweet savor of the word. And behold, there came a leper, and worshipping him, saying, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. This leper is an emblem of the corruption of man by sin, and of his restitution by repentance. A sinner, truly penitent, seeks God with a respectful faith, approaches him in the spirit of adoration, humbles himself under his almighty hand, and acknowledges the greatness of his fall and the vileness of sin by an extreme humiliation of heart. His prayer is humble, plain, and full of confidence in God, who can do all things, and of dependence upon his will, which owes him nothing. It is peculiar to God alone that he need only will what he intends to perform. His power is his will. It is because he wills it that thereby he effects all, both in nature and in grace. These two truths are the fountain of Christian humility, the foundation of continual prayer, and the pledge of the mercy of God to those whose hearts he has been pleased to instruct and penetrate with them. And Jesus put forth his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be thou clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. This action of Jesus Christ is a representation of that invisible hand which makes itself felt by the most insensible hearts, of that internal word which makes itself heard by the most deaf, and of that supreme will which makes itself obeyed by the most rebellious. There are two sorts of grace, the one which does not work a conversion, but which prepares the heart for it by working faith, desires, trust, and prayer, and which causes the leper to say, Lord, if thou wilt, thou canst make me clean. The other, which does really work the conversion itself, by surmounting all the resistance of the sinner, and inspiring him with a good, strong, full, and perfect will, which entirely heals concupiscence, the very thing in which a bad will does consist. Say to me this word of salvation, Be thou clean, O sovereign physician, who dependest not on time for the cure of the maladies of my heart. We ought to be so far from despising the great sinners that it is our duty to apply to them, but still as Christ did, not permitting ourselves to be infected by them. Let us admire the efficacy of prayer, and let us put more trust and confidence in it for the future. And Jesus saith unto him, See thou tell no man, but go thy way, show thyself to the priest, and offer the gift that Moses commandeth, for a testimony unto them. Observe here the conduct of a good director of the conscience. 1. Not to suffer the good which God is pleased to do by his ministry to be divulged, but to shun the reputation of good works. 2. To be unconcerned for his own interest, and zealous for that of God. 3. To prevent all occasion of scandal and jealousy. Priests ought not to treat sinners as cured of the leprosy of sin until they are assured of it by sufficient proofs, as the priests of the law could not accept the offering of a leper, nor allow him to partake of the sacrifice until they had received convincing tokens of his cleanness.